dear listeners. If you're new here, we're Margin Mavens, and we are obsessed with writing in our books and sharing our thoughts with you guys. In this episode, we are talking about Spirit Bound by Richelle Mead, the fifth book in the Vampire Academy series. Following Rose as she's hoping to move on from Dimitri, who is a Strigoi and is essentially stalking her. In the meantime, political waves are happening in the world of the Moroi. As always, we will be talking about plot points and spoilers, so you have been warned. Now, let's get into it. I told you this series grew on you.
This series is going to give me freaking whiplash, okay? How do I go from my most hated book of all time, Shadow Kiss, right? To, at least my favorite book in the series, Spirit Bound.
Yeah.
Like, how... whiplash, I'm telling you. Whiplash.
So...
I didn't even realize... So here's some context, right? I started reading Spirit Bound because I was like, fuck it. I know it's going to be hard for me to get through this. So I'm just going to start it. It's going to take me like 2 weeks to probably finish it. I finished it in like a few days. I sat down and read like half the book in one sitting. And I was like, oh, I should probably slow down. And then finish the second half the next day because like it was that good.
Yeah. So... story, right? So the last book leaves us off where Rose has basically failed to kill Dimitri.
Yep.
And he sends her a letter and he's like, hey, Boo Thing, just letting you know, you missed.
You're dead.
I'm coming after you. I'm gonna kill you. Loves and kisses, Dimitri. And this kind of ends up being a theme. He continues to write letters to her, basically saying, once you get out of that Vampire Academy, I am going to get you out. I'm going to kill you, right?
Yep.
He is the embodiment of like when I catch you.
Toxic AF.
Yeah, he is arguably so bad, right?
But also so interesting. He's so much more interesting for me as a Strigoi than as he was as just a Dampier.
So Rose is dealing with all of this, right? She has decided that she's going to start trying to date Adrian. They've been dating now for a couple months, right?
Heck yeah.
I love Adrian.
Same.
However,
I know.
I understand who he is as a character, but upon reading Spirit Bound, he gave me the ick a little bit when I thought back on Shadow Kiss, or was it
at the end of Shadow Kiss where he makes the offer?
Yeah.
Because
I was like, okay, you know that this, or whenever she gets the money from him,
right? Shadow Kiss.
When we get through, whatchamacallit, she gets through the whole situation with Dimitri, right? Adrian is one of the only ones that has known the entire time that she and Dimitri were in love. So we find out that Dimitri is essentially dead, or Strigoi, at the end of Shadow Kiss, right? And he basically takes that point and he's like, okay, both of them are in the wrong. Let me state that before I dig too much into this. Both of them are in the wrong because Rose goes to him hoping to use the feelings that he has for her as a way to get money to go and kill Dimitri. Messed up. He messes up and gives me the ick because he uses that moment and basically says, I will give you this money as long as you promise to date me or give me a chance when you get back. Right? Both of them are messed up. And it really sets the tone, I think, for their entire relationship. Because he walks into it knowingly that she is not ready. He, like, signs up to kind of be that rebound for her. Because he knows what's going on with her and Dimitri. Right? And he doesn't give her the proper time to deal with it. Right? So then we get into Spirit Bound. They've been dating for a couple months. I do believe that them together are really, really cute. Because you can tell that he genuinely cares about her.
Yes.
And that she cares about him. Right?
And she's trying to
And she is trying. And it's a hard spot for either one of them. But knowing how their relationship started, knowing what they go through in this book, they really do just kind of set themselves up for failure. which is, I think is part of the point, right? Richelle does not want you rooting for Adrian and Rose.
Right, because it's Rose and Dimitri.
Because it's Rose and Dimitri, yeah. And so I think she does a really interesting thing because we see that trajectory of Rose and Adrian could work if this other situation wasn't involved.
Correct.
But even then, they have a lot of extraneous circumstances. Like his mom basically is like, I'm cool with you guys being together because I'm not seeing this as like a long-term thing, right?
Yeah, even his mom knows that it's like doomed from the start, which is
and she knows it's doomed, but for like a very different reason. She's like, Rose is not gonna ever be somebody that's like okay with playing house, right? Like she's gonna
not gonna be like the stay-at-home mom, like little happy Susie homemaker.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily. I don't think Adrian wants that either, but he's very at this point in his life, he's a very dependent boyfriend, right? We see that if him and Rose are doing well, he is like cloud nine, rocking through the world. But the moment that him and Rose are not doing well for whatever reason, right?
He goes back to his vices.
He goes back to his vices, which is obviously like everyone's known a person like that, whether it was romantic or not. So his mom is very aware of like they're just from two different worlds. He is okay with kind of floating aimlessly, and
once she has a goal, that's it.
And she's and so I don't think that they would have worked even without Dimitri, but Dimitri is that big thing that both of them are kind of like, this is the reason we're not working, when I think it goes deeper than that all around. I think Adrian, he doesn't really grow up until the second series with Bloodline series and everything, but I won't get into that because today we're talking about Vampire Academy. I really loved Eddie in this one. I love that he is
big brother vibes.
Yeah, I love that Eddie is like a ride or die, right? So Eddie, for those who might have forgotten, we get introduced to him in Vampire Academy, but he becomes a lot bigger of a player in Frostbite when he is one of the people that are taken by the Strigoi. And so is fed upon, and then Mason dies, right? And Eddie was his best friend. And so okay, so we were talking about Eddie. I love Eddie
so much.
Because Eddie is a ride or die, but he's not an enabler.
Correct.
Right? And I think that is a very important boundary to have. He's like, I'm here for you, Rose. I've got you. I will be there to help you with whatever you need because you have to have a good reason, right? But once that reason is something that he believes is like morally compromising him, he's like, this is not okay.
Screw you. Like,
yeah. And they have a really good conversation about it. That's one of the reasons I think as they get older, I really enjoy the books more. Because it's not necessarily that too much time has passed, right? Like,
no,
it's all within like a year, but they've grown up a lot throughout the course of the series. And you can see that in the communication that they have.
Yes.
Because Rose is like, you're right, I messed up.
Yes.
But you have to know, if you're my friend, that was not my intention. I did not want, people to get hurt because of this.
Right.
And I think he kind of sees that because very early on when he's like, we're not using guns, right? And she was like, no, the way we're doing this, nobody should be getting hurt.
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera.
It's also like on the same lines of communication and how Eddie and Rose communicate with each other. It's interesting to see Rose like nails it with communication with Eddie, but then falters with Dimitri.
And Adrian, like, and everyone.
And Adrian, and everybody, like, Lisa, everybody else. And it's like, it's so
I think it's because she doesn't, with everybody else, she has a lot of other feelings going on. Whereas with Eddie, it's very much like,
that's my big brother.
That's
my bestie.
Yeah. Whereas with Lisa, it's like, I don't want to hurt her. I also don't want her to get hurt.
Right.
With Dimitri, it's obviously like, I love him, yada, yada, yada. With Adrian, it's like, I care about him. I don't want to hurt him, but I love Dimitri. And there's just a lot going on. It's just
incredibly, like, I think my biggest complaint about this book is Rose and her lack of disregard for Dimitri's feelings and boundaries.
Well, we haven't gotten there. Hold on.
No, but I want to say it so it's out there before I forget. But I do truly appreciate how Eddie, like, the second Rose goes to him and is like, hey, I need help with this thing. He's like, bet.
And she even tells him, like, if we get caught, you are gonna lose this future
this is, like,
you've worked for.
Treason. Like, this is bad. And he does not care until he realizes
what it's for. Yeah, he's like, I assumed you had a good reason for this. And your reason ends up being... So, for context, because everyone's probably like, I have no idea what the reason is. She and Lisa decide that they're going to break Viktor Dashkov out of jail because they need to find his brother so they can figure out if there is a way to bring a Strigoi back to life. And so, in order for that to happen, obviously, they have to stage a, prison breakout. And then they end up in Las Vegas. Dimitri is a good little stalker, right? He's immediately there with his cronies and a fight ensues. People die.
The fact that he waits until they're in Vegas to do it is chef's kiss for me. Yeah. Okay, because he could have easily
the moment they left the academy.
Just like descended. But
he waits until there's more people.
He also wanted to, I feel like he wanted to see what she was doing, what her thought process was. But I don't think he ever realized why she was doing it. Yeah. It's just Richelle.
I know, she really knows what she's doing.
You really stepped up your game. I appreciate that.
So we find out that in order to bring a Strigoi back, a spirit user has to infuse spirit into a stake, but not just that, the spirit user has to be the one to stake
the Strigoi.
To stake the Strigoi, right? Which puts them in a interesting position because the Moroi are not trained for this. That it would be a lot closer to a Strigoi than anybody really wants to be, but at least with the Dampiers, they're
strong enough. They've been trained. Yeah, they know exactly how to insert. And you really get, sorry, I don't mean to talk over you, but you really get like a good insight. And probably one of my favorite scenes of the book is when Lisa's new guardians are trying to... With the pillow, trying to show Christian and Lisa just how to stab a Strigoi in the heart. And like, you see Christian and Lisa, who are two pretty strong Moroi. Like, maybe not physically strong, but like, with their abilities, spirit and fire use and all of that, like, they're strong. They can't pierce the pillow enough because they don't know how. And it's just a really, really great scene for me because it's like these two guardians are just like they're doing this not because they necessarily want to train Lisa and Christian and how to stab a Strigoi, but to prove to Lisa and Christian that it's not as easy as just the Moroi think it is, right? Like you have this clear class divide, so to speak, between Dampiers and Moroi. And the Moroi, a lot of the Moroi, not all of them, but a lot of them think that they're better than Guardians and Dampiers, and they think that they're so like cool, their poop don't stink, like, Caroline, that whole thing. But but when it comes down to keeping them safe, they have to rely on Dampiers because Dampiers are the only ones
that can do it,
who are trained to do it and can do it. So it's just like, it's a really interesting scene, and I loved it so much. And I especially loved it getting it from Rose's point of view, because you've got that she's really angry that Lisa's doing this despite the fact that she's told her no. But like, even Rose can see like, it's not that easy. It's never been that easy. And that's coming from Rose, who has staked dozens, I think, at this point.
Rose
Strigoi herself.
Yeah. So backing up a little bit, because I actually did want to talk about something and I forgot. So to get to the point where she becomes a guardian, she has to pass a trial.
Right? Oh my god. Yes.
And the trials are so cool because you see that the school goes like all out in making sure that these trials are good.
And that it properly tests the future guardians. Like, it's not a written test.
Yeah.
It's a physical test to determine if they can do it. And it's not just like a generic, this is what all the guardians are doing. And you find that out when you see, first of all, I appreciate that we did not have 5 chapters
Oh yeah,
just
it
of
was
this
quick.
trial crap.
Which
It was quick.
and it makes sense because Rose herself is like, I like blacked out. I know exactly.
Yeah.
I know the main points,
Mm-hmm.
right? But for Rose, like she's been out in the field. She's
Mm-hmm.
proven that she can do this. So in her brain, she's like, I'm not going to be overconfident. I'm not going to say like I immediately passed this thing, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about it because at the end of the day, this is just a guardian, right? She has that
Right.
disconnect that maybe some of the other guardians don't have because they're still very much like
They're babies.
they're babies. And Rose is like, this isn't a
And
Strigoi.
they're done that.
It's cool.
Like, it's fine.
What's really cool is that we see that Abe actually comes to her trial.
Yes. Oh my god, it's the first time I laughed in this whole series.
And we love the fact that he shows
he and
up
Adrian
because
sit together.
yeah, because the moment I think that the cat is out of the bag, that Abe is her father, right? It almost feels as though he's like, okay, well, she knows, like I don't have to like hide it anymore.
Yeah,
So I can like
I'm just
now
gonna have
do
to hang out, be around,
normal dad things in the eyes
aggravate
of
her. Yeah.
And so that's pretty fun. So so then Dimitri, fast forwarding, right, steps in and kidnaps Lisa.
Are we gonna talk about how, real quick,
Yeah, of course.
a couple things. How Abe threatens Adrian, and Rose is like, I can threaten my own boyfriend. Thank you very much.
And Adrian's like, I know.
Yeah. But then also that the school ended up testing Rose completely different from the rest of the Guardians. Rose had to do this thing with a
bridge involved.
Yeah, and like she ended up like burning it or breaking it or something like that.
She cut the bridge.
She cut the bridge to like win, and they had to like repair the bridge, and she was so confused as she's talking to the other Guardians who passed because nobody else really did the bridge. And then I can't remember who it was. Is it Abe?
Yeah. Or no.
Abe or Adrian or her mom.
Someone tells her.
Somebody tells her, no, that was just for you. Like, they had to give you something different.
Yeah. They knew that you did outside stuff. So they were like.
Yeah. They're like, we got to give you a challenge. And they do.
Yeah. And so I love that. And then it's also the fact that they give her a challenge, but she still doesn't struggle with it.
No, she still rises to the occasion.
Yeah. Rose is so cool to me because it shows the like dichotomy of in combat, she is a force to be reckoned with, especially for creating those parallels between her and Dimitri. Like he has constantly been shown to be he is constantly shown to be like this god amongst men in terms of his combat skills, right? And so to have her slowly and I say slowly, but not really that slow in comparison to her other, classmates and stuff, but she like rises to that level.
Yeah.
Where everybody's kind of like, oh, like Rose is here. We're good,
And the rest of the Guardians on campus, the teachers know this. She is the student that gets pressured more than the rest because they know that she can do it. And not only do it, but excel at it.
Yeah. And I like that you see all of the teachers kind of throughout the entire series. They're like really hard on her, but they're also like the first ones to be there for her when they need her or when she needs them.
Right.
So that was really cool. So Dimitri, the lurker in the shadows, decides to do something that he believes is a smart choice. And
he's not wrong, though. It accomplished what he intended to do.
We'll get there. So he kidnaps Lisa and Christian, killing a Moroi, killing Guardians. Everything is violent and dramatic.
Yes.
And Rose this is kind of her first real mission, as an actual sanctioned guardian. And she becomes that team leader because she's able to get the intel on what's going on with Lisa. Where is Lisa? Yada, yada, yada.
She can use the bond and all of that.
Yeah. So we all know that stuff exists. Dimitri's whole thing was, I'm going to bait Rose into showing up. Right. And he gets that. She shows up. Yeah. Where he miscalculates is he believes that Rose is still going to hesitate. He is kind of locked and loaded, and she's done this a couple times. She's always hesitated, right? But the only real reason that she's always hesitated, right, is because in the past, in her eyes, the only person whose life would be at stake if she lost was hers. Right? So she was like, I'm hesitating. This is the man I love. I don't want to do that. He messes
But
up because he brings in Lisa.
Grabs Lisa. Yep.
He grabs Lisa and she's like, I love you, but you gotta die.
Yeah. If you know anything about besties, especially girl besties, that does not fly. We never let men get in the middle. That's not how that works.
It's rough.
Girl code dictates that it's hoes over bros every time.
And so they go into that final like showdown, right? And we find out sneaky little Lisa and Christian have a plan.
I love them so much.
Right? And so they're not dating at this point, mind you. They're
still broken up.
But
the tension is there, though.
The tension is there. They've been communicating without Rose knowing. Lisa goes in to stake Dimitri. And Rose obviously is like, hold on,
Absolutely
girl. Not doing this. Goes
Stop
to intervene. And Christian puts up a firewall. Blocking Rose out. Which
puts up a circle of fire around Dimitri.
Yeah.
To stop Rose and to keep Dimitri contained. I was beside myself.
Christian.
I love Christian so much.
Christian is super cool. He's like one of the only characters that doesn't really ever annoy me.
Nope. Has never annoyed me.
Throughout the series. I also have to really appreciate that 100% that was really difficult for him because he knew it was going to be a lot of pain for Lisa. You know?
That, and if it went bad,
she was going to die.
She was going to die.
The
love of his life.
Yeah. So she stakes Dimitri. It's a really dramatic moment. Light is blinding everyone.
Also, shout out to Richelle again for not making us wait for that. Because I really thought that this was going to be an end of the book thing.
No. And so Dimitri ends up being brought back to life. He becomes a Dhampir again.
Mm-hmm. Rose loses all sense after this happens
of reality.
She's absolutely she it's so frustrating because she's so great in the first half of this book, right? She's determined
and she evolves,
and then she falls apart because everything that she's been working for, it happened. It's done. He's here. He's back.
And she never stopped to consider.
Yeah, she never thinks about the after. That's the one thing about Rose, that is frustrating, but I appreciate that it remains consistent, is she never thinks about the after. She's just thinking about getting to her goal.
Yeah.
And then once she gets to her goal,
she's like, okay.
She's like, oh shit, there's consequences.
Yeah.
You know?
Which I think is very 18-year-old. You know, I think...
Oh, yeah. It's so teenager, it hurts.
Yeah, and so it makes a lot of sense. And so Dimitri becomes a Dhampir again. She loses her ever-loving mind, right? Truly. Because in her brain... And this is where I'm saying, the trajectory for Adrian and Rose was always going to be a train crash. Which
breaks my heart.
Because she knew that her goal was to bring back Dimitri. By this point, Adrian knows that her goal is to bring back Dimitri. And I feel for him, but I also think he's an idiot.
No, I get why. His whole thing is, all right, let her do whatever she needs to do to get over it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's fine, whatever. I'm just going to trust in that whatever we have is stronger, more important than Dimitri. And maybe he was hoping, that things would go south and that things weren't the same because love fades, blah, 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 blah. And he's just... he's a foolish, lovesick little puppy.
Which makes him an idiot. Because he looks at all the facts, right? He sees the lengths that Rose was willing to go to get to Dimitri in Shadow Kiss or in Blood Promise.
Yeah.
They start dating, right? Mm-hmm. And he's still throughout this relationship kind of dealing with that shadow of Dimitri. Mm-hmm. Finds out that his girlfriend not only is still trying to bring her ex-boyfriend back, but is using his money to do it.
Yeah.
And he goes, do what you gotta do Just
I'll be
talk me
here.
through it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just talk to me about it.
I think he's incredibly dumb for that.
He's also like what, 21, 22?
Yeah, listen.
Have you met listen. The shit
I
I did
get
at
it.
2021.
Yeah, I get it. You know, at 21 I was definitely not making sound choices.
Nope, 100%.
So I understood it, right? But I can still objectively say he was dumb for that. I would have cut my losses there.
He loves her though.
I
think he truly cares about her.
I think he cares about her.
I think he loves her.
I don't
I
think
just
he
don't
loves
think
her.
he's in love with her.
Yeah.
I think it's more of like he loves her. He loves who she is. He loves that she challenges him. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's actually truly in love with her. I think if he was actually in love with her, he would have just let her go.
Yeah.
But this is more his ego coming in. Let's see. I love Adrian, okay? I do. If Adrian has no fans, I'm dead. But
yeah, he really grows a lot in that second series. I'm still debating whether I'm going to go through and reread that one, but we'll see how I feel once I finish this one. And so Dimitri comes back, and he's obviously a anomaly in their world. So they have him under like strict guards. No one really knows what to do with him.
No one can really see him.
What's incredibly an interesting thing that happens, which I think Richelle does really well, is Dimitri and Lisa, who before he was changed had very little to do with each other. Like, he was obviously there if
he was her guardian.
So they had conversations and stuff, right? But she brings him back, and he looks at her like she is his mother goose, and he is but a duckling, you know. And he has all of those like really strong feelings. He makes a point of telling Lisa, like, I do not want to see Rose. And man, I feel for her, because it had to have been such a frustrating and hurting point to know that you have like done all of this work to bring the love of your life back, you know, and your best friend is kind of getting all of that attention and credit for it, when you were like, hold on, I've risked my life multiple times. Yeah, like
her entire future
on this thing, right? I'm the reason we even found out this thing was possible. You know, but because Lisa is the one that does it, I think it also is that kind of viewpoint between the Moroi and the Dampiers, is that a Dampier kind of did all of the heavy lifting.
And the Morois get the credit.
And the Moroi is the one that's like, oh, she brought back the Strigoi. God bless Lisa. And I'm like, man.
But also, like, again, I go back to what I said earlier. What did Rose think was going to happen?
Yeah. Like, once again, just she doesn't think about the after.
She does not think about the after. This poor man. I hate that Richelle made me a Dimitri defender in this book, okay? Yeah. Because reading this from Rose's point of view was incredibly frustrating, because I'm thinking back to what Dimitri has been through, okay?
Yeah.
Like, let's back it up to Shadow Kiss, okay? There's that fight. They're in the cave. He gets snatched by the Strigoi. We don't know how he gets turned into a Strigoi, right? Like, we don't know exactly what happens, like, what he went through before he got to that point. And then we skip to Blood Promise, right? Where he tortures Rose. Like, as far as I'm concerned, biting her, feeding off of her every so often, getting her addicted to that high. Because he knew that's what she did for Lisa at the start of this whole series. Like, he abuses her, essentially. Like, in his mind. He abused her, he hurt her, he put her through hell and back. The person that he loves more than anything on this earth. And now
has to deal with the feelings of it all. You know?
Yeah, so it's very much like,
he got like a shock to his system.
Well, yeah, but for those who have seen like Vampire Diaries, there's the whole humanity. They can turn off their feelings, like they can turn off their humanity, and that's like a big plot point for several of the main characters. they can turn things on and off, right? And when they turn them on, it's a rush of, you know, those feelings back. And that's kind of I felt that comparison. I kept going back to that comparison. Like, they do all this horrible things with their humanity off, and then when it goes back on, they have to deal with all the guilt and all the other feelings that are like associated with that.
And she's blinded by the fact that she loves him,
no
and that
idea.
she's like forgiven him. That she's like, why are you still upset about this thing?
Which is wild, because for like a whole book, she struggled with her guilt for Mason's death. And she can't relate to what Dimitri's going to. Like, yeah, Dimitri didn't cause your death, but he did things to you.
And tried to kill you.
And tried to kill you. And, like...
And killed people to get to you.
Yes, exactly. Like, he killed guardians.
He killed his former mentor, that even though she was a Strigoi.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot that he went through.
Mm-hmm. And he had such strong... Or he has such strong morals, even before he was turned.
Yeah.
That he comes back to it and he's like, everything that I say is bad. I did.
Yeah.
And
I hate that I became a Dimitri defender.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. I tried warning you. I said.
But, like, that poor man, he needs
let it cook.
Therapy. He needs some therapy and, like, maybe, like, a rehab facility. Mm-hmm. Just so that, because I imagine every time he sees Rose, he remembers what he did. Like, he goes back.
And it's probably really conflicting for him, because he remembers all of these things, but he still also loves her.
Before that, yes.
You know, he still loves her. He still wants to be there. He's still aware cognitively what she did to get to this point.
Right.
Right? And he's like, he makes a point and he says, like, this is a debt that I will never be able to pay. Right? Because with Lisa, he's like, I'll pay it by protecting you with my own life for the rest of my life.
Right.
Whereas with Rose, he's like, I can't do that for you because I can't be around you. It's too much.
Right. It's and it's really interesting, not to skip too far ahead, but like, he's still, so for those who aren't aware,
wait.
Okay.
Wait. No.
Okay. I'm gonna wait. All right. Fine.
And so as all of this is happening, right, Rose and Lisa are really on, like, damage control. They're trying to show people that Dimitri is not dangerous. Yes. Rose is kind of devolving very quickly into her bad traits.
Falling apart.
Into her, like, bad traits of, like, brunt force, trying to get people to do the things that she wants. And even Lisa. When Lisa's the voice of reason, there's a problem. Because Lisa is not super reasonable a lot of the time.
When Christian or Adrian become the voice of reason, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
Which, like, I feel like both of them had their moments with Rose as she was devolving to be like, hey, like, maybe this isn't, you need to stop.
And so getting away from the Rose drama of it all, right? There's bigger drama happening in the world of the Moroi. There are proceedings happening, and she gets called into a hearing. And they're basically asking her without any context, like, when did you kill your first Strigoi? What did that look like? How many did you kill when you were on your own? Yada, yada, yada. And she's expecting it to just be like, they want to know about, like, the times I ran away. They're trying to decide if I'm in trouble or something. Okay.
Right.
And so she tells them, right? And we find out
they used her
as evidence as to why the law that Dhampirs go into becoming guardians at 18 should be reduced to 16.
16.
Right?
And she's furious.
And she's
rightfully
furious.
so.
Yeah, because she's like, whoa. I don't believe this.
She doesn't want
babies
to go through what she went through. Like,
yeah, she's like, I did those things, the context, but I'm traumatized.
She would have said, like, no. Like, and so she rightfully so speaks up in the with the queen. Right? And all
calls
the council
her
members,
a sanctimonious
bitch. And I've never loved a character more. Like, I love Rose is infuriating, but I love when she just, like,
she gets fired up.
How it is. When she gets fired up, she just, like, drags Tatiana and the rest of the council members for filth over this.
And
to the point where she has to get dragged out by guardians.
And what I love about those guardians, right, is they do that. And she's like, okay, so am I like going to jail now? Like, what's going on? And they were like, they didn't tell us what to do after.
She just told us to take you out, like to remove you from the room.
And we see that the guardians are very much on her side because I think any guardian would be. I think,
yes,
you know, and that's the big divide that's happening within that society. And so she ends up dealing with that, right? And then
Tatiana, being the political mind that she is,
there's
more,
like,
you know what? Let's distract them from this new law. Toss Dimitri and give him something else. Yeah, out in public, in the sun, just to like
cause the conversation.
Distract.
Yeah, and
distract from this.
And so Rose and Dimitri have a really sweet moment with a little boy where the little boy is trying to figure out.
Yeah. He doesn't look like a Strigoi.
Yeah, and so it's really nice because you see that
have
like
horns.
Yeah, and so to see that like childlike innocence, be like, why are we debating this? Like he's not a Strigoi, and you see kind of that wordless communication happening between Rose and Dimitri again, which Rose loses her mind in this book, but I can almost understand why at 18 years old she would. Because she's like, man, he says he doesn't want to see me, but we still have this chemistry. We still have this good thing.
She tells the little boy to punch Dimitri,
and he
Dimitri
does, and he
pretends
falls
to
over.
fall over.
It's so good. And so so things are happening, right? Abe ends up telling her that she needs to use this modem and have a call with somebody. And we have the conversation with Sydney.
Right? Love me some Sydney.
We find out that Lisa's father's file has been stolen. And so we're trying to figure out what's going on with that. Because of this, Rose misses a party that she was supposed to go to with Adrian. Yeah. Right. And they have another moment where I'm just saying, like, as Adrian, I would just cut my losses. You know, like it would hurt.
But now it's an ego thing.
But now it's an ego thing. And he has that like such like an addictive personality, right? That if he's not using his other vices, Rose is that addiction.
Yes.
And
correct.
So he's basically like, hey, like you stood me up. And she's like, and she tries to explain because at this point it wasn't Dimitri related.
It wasn't her. Yeah, it wasn't really her fault.
And so, but he doesn't listen and I like understand, whatever. And so she goes to see, or she has another conversation with Dimitri in the church. Because once again, she's devolving. She's not boundaries.
She truly is. She's
boundaries no
it.
Good. And so she finds him in the church and they have this big conversation, right? And she's consistently trying to say like, yo, like what is going on? Like you love me, etc., etc.
Infuriating 18-year-old that she is.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was this conversation because he says things similar to this the entire time, but he basically tells her like, I've given up on you, like love fades, mine has. And that's kind of the moment where it like really socks her. Yeah. Because she's like, oh, he's never said it like that. He's always said like, I can't love you. This isn't working. But to just blatantly say like, I am no longer in love with you. And you have that kind of moment where you see his face change. And he, I think, has that moment of like, oh crap. Like I wanted her to leave me alone, but I didn't want her to like hurt. To this level.
He didn't want to hurt her any more than he already had.
And so she ends up being reckless and impulsive Rose that we know. And she goes and I believe Adrian goes home. Adrian shows up.
Yes.
And they get very close to sleeping together.
They would have if
he had protection. And he's like, I can risk it. And she's like, I cannot. Which good for her.
Yeah.
Fantastic role model for 18-year-olds.
Love that she had boundaries. Wish that she would respect other people's boundaries. But you know what? It's fine. Growth.
We take what we get sometimes. Yeah. And so she ends up letting him bite her. Right. And so that night they spend together, whatever.
For the record, just a casual reminder, biting during any intimacy is like a big deal.
Heavily taboo in this society.
It's very taboo. It's something like that she has stated in prior books, she doesn't want to be what they consider a, quote, blood whore,
Mm-hmm.
which is people who, like, sleep with Moroi and, like, do the biting and all of that, and drinking, feeding, all that stuff. She doesn't want to be that. So for her to take this step with Adrian is a big deal.
Yeah, because she, I guess, like, trusts him to not view her as that. It wasn't...
Correct.
She knew that it wasn't going to change the way he viewed her or treated her. It wasn't going to be, like, a lack of respect and whatever. And she wanted
was something that she could give him, like, that intimacy without actual physical intimacy. Well,
yeah. Which I feel
still
like...
physical, but not, you know.
I just feel like there were other ways she could have done that, but, like...
It's like...
It's a Richelle Mead book. I get it.
Yeah. Everything but, you know...
is cool. And so the next day she goes and she's getting food, and Dimitri's at a table.
Yep.
And she's planning on ignoring him. I think you kind of see her slowly coming to her senses a little bit, because she's like, I am tired of these conversations. He said what really hurt. I'm going to move on. Even if it hurts like hell. But then one of the guardians talks to her, and I'm like, dang it, man. She was so close to getting in and out.
Yeah. They start chatting, and that's where Dimitri finds out about
the age
the
law.
new law. Yeah.
And it causes them to have a normal conversation for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
And then she devolves again, because he makes a point of saying, like, if you see Tasha, let her know to come see me so we can do something about this. Right? And Rose can't help herself. I think she was caught off guard by... I think Tasha will always be, like, that sore spot for her. Of, like, I almost lost you because of her, and now you're telling me to make sure that she comes to see you when you were saying that you and I can't be anything. Right. And so they're getting kind of in the middle of an argument, right? People march in, and they're a bunch of guardians march in. Like, royal guards specifically, not just any guardians. They come in... Yeah. And they're like, you know, do not fight us, come with us. And she thinks they're talking to Dimitri. So she's like, wait, what did he do? He couldn't have done anything. And they're like, actually, like, we're talking to you.
No. LOL,
and she's like,
JK.
And she's like,
you
wait,
come with us.
Why? And so my favorite scene of the series is they all go to basically grab Rose, and Dimitri becomes like a hurricane of Russian power.
Yes.
And he is like... doesn't hesitate and just starts immediately fighting off all of these guardians.
He's also not helping his case.
Yeah.
Because he can't say, stay away from me. I don't want you. I don't love you. But the second she's under threat, he's ready to fucking throw hands.
And he does. And he does it really successfully. And he does.
He does. And then finally she's like, stop. I'll go with you. Like, please stop. Like, because
she
begs
knows
Dimitri to stop, because she knows what'll happen if he doesn't.
She knows that it'll become an argument of he could still very well be Strigoi, because he was able to do it. But he was able to do that before. You know, he was God among men and whatever. And they have another, like, silent conversation where she's basically like, you need to stop because they're going to say that you were dangerous. And he has that moment, and she's like, I know that if I said so, he would still risk it. Everything. And so they have that moment. We find out that the Queen Tatiana has been murdered.
Heck yeah. Oh, down with the Queen.
She's been murdered, and Rose is the main suspect. And so things happen very quickly after that. We find out that she was staked with Rose's stake.
Yep.
Right?
But the best part happens. Yeah. The best part of this book happens at the end.
And so we get a nice conversation with Adrian, Lisa, Christian, and Adrian's mom. And Adrian's mom is like, this is what she's apparently guilty of and whatever. And he's like, she couldn't be. She was with me all night. And her mom is like, and I'm like, there's no way you didn't think that Adrian and Rose were sleeping together. Like, we as audience know that they haven't. But there's
but also like, she's concerned that this will look bad on Adrian and in turn their family. So she's like, oh my God, I'm gonna get a lawyer. You have to have a lawyer. And he's like, I don't need a lawyer. Rose needs a lawyer. Yeah. She's the one
on trial, you know?
She's the one on trial.
We get to the case. Daniela Ivashkov we get to the hearing because they're just having to decide if they're going to a trial. And she's got a lawyer named Damon, who apparently is really good, can get anybody out of anything, right?
Yep.
Hearing is getting ready to start. Who walks in other than Abe Mazur saying that he will be Rose's lawyer? I don't know if I would have taken it. I don't know if I would have.
The fact that she's sitting there truly contemplating on whether she wants her like mafia-like father or this A+ lawyer to represent her. Okay, so like as somebody who has not yet fully healed her daddy issues, I get the choice. Cause like, yeah, like, oh, dad wants to help me. Let me just like
yeah, he's coming to my rescue. That's so cool of him. He's coming to
rescue me. I love that. Like, yay.
Yeah, I think I would have chosen the lawyer.
But yeah, but here's the thing, okay? Abe was doing just fine until Rose decides to open her mouth.
Yeah. And so we find out that a lot of the evidence is very circumstantial, right? We've got Rose's steak. We've got
fingerprints on the steak.
Fingerprints and stuff like that. And even like just from an audience standpoint, I'm like, oh, 100%. Someone is setting Rose up.
Yeah.
And like, so I agreed with Rose, but she makes a point and she talks to the crowd and she's like,
she talks to the judge and she's like, I would have done a better job than this.
If I murdered the queen, do you think I would have made it so obvious? And I was like, girl, shut up.
The way she wanted to be like, I broke Victor Dashkoff out of jail and nobody knew it was me. Like that. Like would not. Nobody would know it was me. And Abe is like, I can feel the seething from her dad beside her. Like, shut up.
Yep.
You're not helping.
So obviously the hearing, they decide that they're going to go to trial because.
Yes. Because she didn't help her case at all.
She did not.
But who was in the back? Who was in the back of the room while all of this was happening?
Tell him who was in the back.
Dimitri.
Yeah.
Because even though he talks a big game about how he doesn't love her,
he doesn't
want to be around her, he's in the back of that room.
Yeah, he's in the back of the room. She has that moment once again of I make eye contact with him and I realize in that moment that he would fight his way to me and get me out of here if I so much as like made a signal, you know? And it, I mean, I think it's safe to say, because there's one book left of this series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her and Adrian are going to explode.
Yeah.
I
hope that they don't like explode though. Like I hope it's like my dream, and don't make a face, don't you fucking dare. My dream is that they come to a mutual understanding and just part ways. Do I think that's actually how it's going to go? Knowing Adrian the way that I do? No, because he's still an unstable spirit user with horrible, awful vices. So I imagine it'll be some big blow up and he'll run off and leave her to defend herself against these allegations. That's how I imagine it going. So this last
book of the series becomes basically like a murder mystery, which, you know me, I love me a murder mystery. We have to figure out.
But we know who it is. Right? Like, Victor Dashkoff is still out in the wind.
He is. So we have to figure out, do they catch Victor? What goes on?
Also, before we forget, Ambrose, Tatiana's
super
lover,
super cool dude.
He comes back in this book, but he gives Rose a note from the queen herself,
which I think the foreshadowing foreshadows, right? Because Rose and Ambrose have an argument when she talks to him about the law, and he's like, Tatiana would not do this without a reason. She is not she is not supportive of this law. There has to be more about it. I'll talk to her. And apparently he does, because he ends up getting a letter to Rose. And we find out, that Lisa has a half-sibling somewhere, which changes everything in the political world. Because as of right then, the Dragomirs cannot be on the council because they do not have a family member.
She doesn't have a family. Yes.
Yeah.
She needs a full family. She can't be the only one.
And so, which I think is really messed up, but I guess it also saves Moroi from, like, killing their family members. And so that's kind of the whole big thing. So we walk into the next book knowing, 1, a new queen has to be decided.
Yes.
2, there is a half sibling somewhere
Yes.
that we need to find. 3.
And Victor Dashkov is still out
3.
there.
Victor is in the wind. We need to figure out if he did it, how did he do it, why did he do it. 4. What happens with Rose and Dimitri. And
all of which we kind of know already.
But we don't know how. I say we, but like you don't know how.
I mean, like, I can imagine it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful when I say this, but it is a typical YA series. Like,
guess what?
They were going to be endgame, regardless.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying you might not guess how.
I imagine it's gonna somehow lead to angry sex. Would be my best guess. Like, at this point, like, they're gonna aggravate each other so much they're just gonna end up in bed again, and then everything's fine. Like, that's if that doesn't happen, I'll be genuinely surprised.
That is an interesting trajectory. I will neither confirm nor deny.
Great.
I am a keeper of secrets.
You are.
I also found out that there is a short story that takes place after the next book that I never read. So that'll be the first one of the series.
After
Last Sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
There's a short story that Richelle wrote that I have never read.
From Rose's point of view? Dimitri's point of view?
I don't know.
We have no idea.
We have no idea. But
cool,
that'll be interesting because we'll probably squeeze it into the next video and it'll be the first one that I can actually like react to. Yeah, without just saying my feelings. I can actually be like, oh, this happened and I didn't see it coming. Or that happened.
Yeah.
And I saw it coming or whatever.
Yeah.
But this has been another episode of Margin Mavens.
Episode,
this has been a long one. I hope you've enjoyed this. Our Vampire Academy series just tends to be longer because there's a lot going on and we have a lot of feelings. But we hope that you enjoyed every single moment of it. Please remember to show support by liking the video wherever you watched it. And we will see you in the next one.